Camp is camp. It's tough, but it's for me to want to push myself. This is what I do, this is what I live for. I'm ready for battle. I feel like I'm getting stronger, and I feel by the time the fight comes, I'll be at peak performance.
One more. One more. Beautiful. Good. That's what we've got to bring him on to. Nobody can take that.
It's unbelievable how far and how wide sports can take you and the things that you get access to.
Anthony Joshua has officially kicked off his first day of training camp ahead of his highly anticipated showdown with Jake Paul, now targeted for December 19th. With the fight finally confirmed, Joshua isn't wasting a single moment, diving straight into camp with ruthless focus and the hunger of a former heavyweight king. Jake Paul may have built his name from YouTube stardom to boxing headlines, proving time and time again that he can command massive attention. But this time, he steps into the spotlight against a completely different beast, a seasoned knockout artist with elite experience and championship pedigree. The stage is set. The preparation has begun, and both men are heading into December with everything to prove and everything to lose.
Vegas, the second leg of the training camp. I'm feeling energized, I'm feeling refreshed. So yeah, come inside, have a look what's going on. Tough training, tough lifestyle, rough and tough. But listen, how else would I want it? I love it. So what am I bringing differently? I won't say a new mindset, but definitely like a new perspective. But ultimately, everything new has to lead to a win. So yeah, that's what I'm focused on right now, just winning. With training camp, it's grueling, like there's no doubt about that. But you just need to have a clear mind and be optimistic and run towards challenges every day. And that's how I'm able to get through, is just the perspective I have on what suffering looks like. There's a certain standard that one has to have if they want to achieve certain things. I am working past effort measures that I set out for myself. Yes, it's tough. Yes, I'm tired.
According to Mike Coer, the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul showdown is now a done deal, officially locked in for December 2025 in Miami. The blockbuster event is set to be streamed live on Netflix as a full-fledged professional heavyweight bout, marking one of the most sensational and unconventional matchups the sport has ever seen.
You mentioned earlier that Anthony Joshua still didn't have an opponent for his next fight, but he was thinking of still fighting before the end of the year. And we've got some breaking news for you now, because we're hearing that AJ is in talks with Jake Paul over a deal for a heavyweight fight in Miami next month. Of course, the YouTuber Paul has already fought the former heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson, and beaten him. And he's now in talks with Anthony Joshua with a view to the two of them fighting in Miami next.
Eddie Hearn has responded firmly, pushing back on the confusion. He confirmed the fight is happening and made it clear that it will be contested under full Queensberry rules, not as an exhibition. Hearn shut down any talk of modified terms, stating there will be no oversized gloves, no shortened rounds, and no special safety adjustments. The bout will use 10-ounce competition gloves, the agreed number of rounds, and the standard professional boxing framework, a real fight under real boxing rules.
Telling Ring Magazine, Anthony Joshua, your man, and Jake Paul are finalizing a deal for a December heavyweight fight in Florida. True or false?
I mean, the gun was jumped a little bit and fired early. There have been conversations. For us, we were flirting with the idea of having this little 8-round fight this year. Not with Jake Paul, by the way, because he was fighting Gervonta Davis.
Yeah, that's not.
But we were going to go on a other card somewhere. You wouldn't have really heard of the person we were going to fight. But AJ wanted to go through the motions, wrap the hands, and just gear up to what is really in the works with Turki Al-Sheikh, which is 2 fights in 2026, and that includes Tyson Fury. That's the plan for Turki Al-Sheikh. We received a phone call from Nikisa Baldirian, from MVP, who, by the way, we've spoke to a few months before, talking to us about the fight, and he said, look, would you want to fight Jake Paul? And I said, listen, I don't want to just be a publicity muppet for you, you know, telling everybody that you offered the fight to Anthony Joshua. If you're serious, we can discuss the numbers, and if there's a chance for us to run out, in December and, take care of this bloke and get him out of the boxing world and make several tens of millions in the process, of course, we will consider it. And that's basically where we are at now.
And do the numbers stack up?
Of course, it's difficult to have this conversation. I think sometimes you just need to...
Hearn told Sky Sports that they have zero interest in exhibitions. If Jake Paul wants this fight, it will be a real fight at a contracted weight, nothing watered down. However, Hearn also cautioned that the deal is not finalized yet. He rated the chances as 50-50, explaining that there are still major conversations and details to be negotiated before anything is officially signed.
It's extremely dangerous for Jake Paul. I've got the general feedback is the boxing world saying, please AJ, go in and evaporate this young man from the boxing world so we can all get on as normal. You've got Jake Paul fans thinking bizarrely they can beat Anthony Joshua. And the most bizarre thing out of everything is that Jake Paul genuinely believes he will beat Anthony Joshua. I think that's the only reason we're going to see this fight, but I truly believe you're going to...
Hearn admitted that Jake Paul is crazy enough to genuinely chase this fight, even though Anthony Joshua is a legitimate heavyweight monster. He highlighted that the payday for both men would be massive, which explains why the negotiations are even happening. But Hearn didn't soften the reality. He warned that putting an inexperienced Paul in front of seasoned, prime AJ is a brutal mismatch, one that could be career-ending for Paul, whether literally or figuratively.
Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua, 50-50 fight. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I just said in another interview, great if it is. I mean, if it is, then you've got no problem seeing it. But when AJ, decapitate's a strong word, but when he renders Jake Paul unconscious like he did to Francis Ngannou, don't then say, oh well, it was Jake Paul. Do you know what I mean? I mean, when AJ beat Francis Ngannou, Ngannou just had a fight that could have gone either way with Tyson Fury. Then AJ poleaxed him and everyone just said he's just an MMA fighter. Do you know what I mean? Jake Paul's not Francis Ngannou. But, as I said before, if you want to see Jake Paul exit the boxing world...
However, Hearn acknowledged that Jake Paul isn't reckless without purpose. He has a calculated strategy of calling out high-profile professional boxers who guarantee massive paydays.
But AJ, just quickly, I watched Jake Paul the weekend. I feel a bit dirty saying that because I'm not a fan of his, but he did say after the fight that he's sort of having DMs or he's dropping text messages to AJ. They're having a chat about a potential fight. What's your view on that, Eddie?
Well, look, he's calling out Gervonta Davis, who is a 135-pound lightweight, and he's calling out Anthony Joshua, that's a heavyweight monster. I think Jake Paul is crazy enough to fight Anthony Joshua because the money would be absolutely obscene. It's a catastrophic mismatch that people would tune in to watch because it would lead to the end of Jake Paul. Hopefully not literally, but it's that dangerous that, it's a fight that I don't think should really happen, if I'm honest. I would say about Jake Paul, and I've said this in a couple of interviews today, I do think you start after giving him a margin of respect. I think this guy is going through the motions, he's putting the hard spars in. He just went 10 rounds with, yes, a washed up fighter, but a former world champion that did train for that fight. But they're very clever in terms of the opponents that they pick. They're not going to gamble unless the money's out of control. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jake Paul, wanted to move forward with an Anthony Joshua fight. Honestly, AJ's coming tonight. He's not exactly looking at Jake Paul going, oh, that's my dream opponent. No. Would he go in there and give him a hiding for, a massive chunk of money? Probably. I'll be saying, yeah.
Simon Jordan has admitted that, despite all his criticism, the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight could actually benefit boxing in several ways. He acknowledges that the matchup would attract massive global attention, pull in millions of new viewers, and create huge financial opportunities for everyone involved. Jordan pointed out that boxing is not just a sport. It's a business, and pairing a former heavyweight champion with one of the biggest digital entertainers on the planet is guaranteed to draw money, media coverage, and mainstream curiosity. He believes the spectacle will entertain casual fans, dominate headlines, and fuel debates, all of which help keep the sport relevant. And while he still questions the competitive legitimacy of the fight, Jordan admits that commercially and financially, this could be a massive win for boxing.
This is the entertainment business, and Anthony Joshua is an entertainer, and you can't undo the fact that he won the World Heavyweight Championship twice. and he fought in some great fights.
So why does he need this?
Because he's in the business of entertainment. And if an opportunity is presented to him and someone wants to say that we can monetize this to the huge levels that are potentially available, why wouldn't you? It's a walk in the park.
You see, you're not having Saturday night.
Because I
But
don't,
many people wouldn't have this.
I'm not having.
Because this isn't a proper fight where a Saturday night is.
But I don't think this is a proper. I don't think that I would ever consider having a debate about whether Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul is a proper fight between two bona fide champions. I think Jake Paul is someone that's creating a lot of opportunity for himself and using sport as the anchor for it. And will I watch it? No. And do I value it? No. But when I'm asked to be confronted with a fight between two legends' sons and then get involved in all of the nonsense that goes.
Simon Jordan didn't stop there. He also took aim at the Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. matchup, arguing that the entire promotion leaned more on nostalgia than genuine sporting merit. He said the fight was being sold on the legacy of their fathers' legendary rivalry from the 1990s rather than on what Ben and Eubank Jr. have actually accomplished in their own careers. Jordan accused promoters of weaponizing history to disguise the fact that the fight made little competitive sense, especially with Ben moving up in weight and Eubank Jr. cutting down dangerously. Jordan then compared that situation to the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul negotiations, calling it an even more blatant cash grab. In his view, the matchup is a mismatch between a former heavyweight champion and a social media celebrity, something that undermines the integrity of boxing. He questioned whether the bout should even be sanctioned, expressing concern over the serious physical risk to Jake Paul and warning that Joshua's legacy could suffer long-term damage if he goes down this route.
Merits the kind of returns that they're going to get for the level that they've operated in their careers. And that's one of my issues around the Conor Benn Eubank fight. This fight over here with Anthony Joshua, I know what this is. No one can dress this up. This is a turd that will get polished into a huge pile of money. And if you know that from the outset,
Yeah.
so I don't have any illusions about it. Neither does anybody else. Nobody thinks that this is a real fight. Nobody thought. I mean, Spencer tried his very level best and will never try it again to convince us that Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Well, this is something similar for different reasons. Anthony Joshua is still a live heavyweight, and if he hits Jake Paul's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And some people might think that's a good thing to happen to him to learn his lesson. But he's also now fighting. He's got a fighter's license. And the question should be along the lines of what Chris Eubank Sr. was raising. Is it right? Is this appropriate that a high-performing supreme athlete like Anthony Joshua, whose only real challenges now are probably in his mind, because physically he can operate at the highest level if he still chose to, should be stepping in against someone like Jake Paul that does not have the skill set to deal with the kind of power and expertise that Anthony Joshua has? And should boxing be sanctioning this? This is the bigger question.
Oh, that's true. That is true. Having said all that, Netflix tell us 60 million households worldwide tuned in live to see Mike Tyson take on Jake Paul. Why would Jake Paul end up fighting?
Adding even more fuel to the hype, boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. delivered a surprisingly cautious take on the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight. Instead of celebrating the spectacle, Jones urged strategic decision-making, insisting the bout must make sense for Joshua both competitively and financially.
I want to change subjects just a little bit here. And Anthony Joshua, there's rumours circulating he could be fighting Jake Paul next. One, do you think it's good for boxing? And two, do you think the fight will happen?
I think it's great for boxing. I think the fight will happen. AJ is 1-0 against these guys that come in to these boxing careers late. So why not? He's a perfect guy to take him out too. He took Ngannou out. Why would he not take Jake Paul out? And for him, he probably make more money fighting Jake Paul than will fight anybody else that he can fight right now. So why would he not do? I mean, not that he needs the money right now anyway, but if he's going to do something, if he want to get a good win to put him back on the scene, that's perfect.
Dave Farrer and Spencer Oliver highlighted the rapidly growing public debate over a potential Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul clash. The conversation gained momentum after Saudi boxing Supremo Turki Al-Sheikh hinted at giving the fight the green light during a TalkSport appearance at Wembley. Al-Sheikh confirmed that Paul has verbally accepted the bout and expressed his desire for Joshua to dominate Paul in a one-sided fashion, calling it a win-win test of legitimacy for both fighters.
Does he really want to smoke? I mean, he's got to be an idiot if he does, because Anthony Joshua, let's use this as a comparison. Francis Ngannou called Anthony Joshua out after pushing Tyson Fury the way that he did, and you looked at that and he went in there and he iced him in 2 rounds. Francis Ngannou versus Jake Paul, you got to go heavily on Francis Ngannou, haven't you? So what's going to happen to poor Jake Paul if he boxes Anthony Joshua, this Olympic gold?
Mike Kopinger has raised serious concerns about the proposed Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight, arguing that Paul's main motivation seems to be the massive payday rather than sporting legitimacy. Kopinger reports that while negotiations are well underway, they still face major hurdles, including broadcast agreements and official sanctioning. He emphasized that Joshua represents a huge leap in size, power, and elite-level experience compared to anyone Paul has faced, making the matchup potentially dangerous. According to Kopinger, the fight's commercial appeal may push it forward, but it raises serious questions about Paul's safety, his credibility as a boxer, and the overall integrity of the event.
It's a breaking story on Ring Magazine. Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul are finalising a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in December in Miami. Sources tell the Ring Magazine's Mike Kopinger. What do you make of that?
Well, Anthony Joshua was talking about wanting warm-up fights before going into bigger fights, but look, it's prize fighting at the end of the day, and the way that Joshua will see it, and Matchroom and all the team, the fans won't like this, by the way.
I don't like it.
No,
either.
I don't like it either. But the way that Joshua will see it is as a money grab. He'll see it as an easy money grab, but at this stage of his career, is it a fight he should be taking? Nah, definitely not.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be licensed because it's...
Meanwhile, Jake Paul's promoter, Nakisa Badarian, has directly addressed concerns about the size and power disparity between Paul and Anthony Joshua. He stated, size-wise, we can get comfortable with it. With Paul reported to weigh around 210 to 215 pounds compared to Joshua's roughly 252 pounds, Badarian argued that Paul's strength and rapid development make the matchup viable. He also highlighted Paul's experience at heavyweight, including facing big names like Mike Tyson, and stressed his confident progression in the ring. Across the boxing world, however, professionals continue to voice serious doubts about the fight's legitimacy, safety, and impact on legacy. While some acknowledge the commercial opportunity, very few see it as a credible competitive contest.
Mistaken, and two of his losses are against Alexander Usyk. Usyk weighed in at 220 pounds for those fights. Jake is not Usyk, a lot more years of experience needed to get to that level, but Jake walks around between 208 and 210, and he fought Mike Tyson at 228 pounds. So I think size-wise, we can get comfortable with it, and I think experience-wise, Jake is learning very fast and growing, and Joshua is a little long in the tooth. So it could be a very interesting matchup, and we're actively discussing it with Matchroom.
Don't put it past Jake Paul. Anthony Joshua, as much as he's a monster, he's got a weak mind, hasn't he? So Jake could end up getting into it because Jake's got everyone eating out the palm of his hand. He's a very clever man. So
you really think he's got a chance?
Why wouldn't he have a chance? Look how confident he is. Mate, come on. Like, Anthony would have all the pressure in the world, and if Anthony didn't do him with the first few punches, he'd start doubting himself in his head, because that's what he does. But no, Anthony should win, shouldn't he?
What do you make of Tyson Fury saying that he's going to put $1 million bet on Jake winning by
Tell
knockout?
Tyson to leg it, lad. He's retired about 50 times. What's he on about, mate? Just tell him to leg it, and I'd love him. If he walked in here, I'd obviously...
At one point you were good friends.
I'm still good friends, but obviously if he walked in here, I'd act like I'm not talking about him, but then on the camera I'm talking to him. Is this not what we're on? Is everyone not fake, or no? We all... What are we on here? Are we all acting like we don't hate each other? Like, come on. Like, what?
You're on absolute smoke today.
Former world champion George Groves has also dismissed the idea of Anthony Joshua fighting Jake Paul, seeing no sporting value in it. He argues that Joshua deserves meaningful bouts against legitimate contenders, not crossover spectacles. Groves described the fight as low risk, low legacy, insisting that Joshua should either wait for a mega fight with Tyson Fury, the only matchup he believes truly matters for his legacy, or consider retirement.
Still trying to convince people that he's a legitimate boxer. He's not a legitimate boxer. You've picked someone who was a professional boxer, whose dad was a legend of professional boxing. You might as well.
The potential clash between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul embodies everything boxing is grappling with in the modern era: the tension between pure sporting competition and commercial spectacle. For Joshua, It represents a chance to secure a massive payday and reassert himself on the global stage after setbacks in his heavyweight career. For Paul, it's the biggest gamble of his boxing journey, an opportunity to prove he can hang with a true elite or expose the limits of his celebrity-built resume.
Jake Paul, you've lost your mind if you think you can go toe-to-toe with Anthony Joshua. Listen, let's not get confused, guys. Let's not get confused. Yes, cool. Anthony, he took a big L with Daniel Dubois. But Daniel Dubois is not no joke, bro. It's not a joke. You know what I'm trying to say? He took a L there, but Jake Paul, I've got the utmost respect of what he's done, how he's managed to navigate through the boxing world. Like, bro, it's so mad. And I can see this is like a 90%. This happening, his positioning, his marketing already. Like, why would you see Jake Paul go face to face with Alexander Usyk if it's not to position for a fight for Saudi? Obviously, Jake Paul's gonna fight Anthony Joshua. There's possibly gonna be a Usyk against Tyson Fury 3, because obviously the last two were so close. But you never know. It can also be a Usyk against Derek Chisora.
Do you think Jake Paul actually has a shot against Anthony Joshua? Is this fight a win for boxing or just a total circus? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear what you think.